Hello, everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
Woo, that's right. And we're following the animal theme begun by reviewing Wolverine. This week, we're going to be reviewing Blue Beetle #1 from June 1986.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you know about Blue Beetle, Mike Dell?
Oh, well, I do know something about Blue Beetle because, as I mentioned last week on the show, well, let me say this: I know something about a Blue Beetle, not necessarily this Blue Beetle.
Okay.
But because I love old-time radio shows.
Yeah.
And in the early 1940s, there's a radio show called the Blue Beetle, and I used to listen to it. And it's about a fellow named Dan Garrett, and he was a police officer, and then he would put on a bulletproof vest, and he'd take some amphetamines, and he'd go out and fight crime. I think they called it Vitamin 2X, and it gave him extra stamina.
It is pretty interesting how many superheroes were just drug addicts back then, eh?
Yes. His big assistant in fighting crime was a pharmacist, like no job. That was his right hand man.
Really?
Yeah, he's giving him uppers to go out and tear through crime. But I love the old radio show. Very entertaining. And you can still find them on the YouTubes. If you go on there, just type in Blue Beetle Radio Show. I'm sure you can hear him. And so that's the Blue Beetle I know and love. Now, this Blue Beetle, not so much. Not so much.
Well, can I tell you now where I come in?
Well, I guess
Sure.
I didn't do much research, but I have the Wikipedia page open, so let's go through that.
Oh, there you go. That's good enough.
But the original Blue Beetle, the guy I like, he started in comic books way back in 1939. And,
Yes.
With Fox Comics. And his first appearance was in something called, Mystery Men Issue 1 or something, 1939. Something like that. And he then moved over to Charlton Comics. And at some point, I guess he got superpowers from a sacred scarab. Like an Egyptian bug.
I gotta cut in and say one thing, though, because I've been a Blue Beetle fan for a solid 30 years, okay? But
wow.
And I know about Ted Kord, which we're about to talk about today, and I know about Dan Garrett. And Ted Kord's got the famous costume everyone knows. Dan Garrett's is kind of more primitive. It's just kind of blue and scaly with red gloves, right? Or whatever. But what I didn't realize was that the Dan Garrett that I know that is in continuity with Ted Kord is technically the second Dan Garrett Blue Beetle. The original Dan Garrett Blue Beetle was just a guy in a trench coat, almost like Green Hornet, right? He's just a color-themed, vigilante. So I don't know on the radio show which version it was, but...
Well, the radio show, he was a police officer who put on a bulletproof outfit and everything. Fought crime with the Blue Beetle. So I'm guessing that was more... I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, Vitamin 2X. So I guess that was the original version of Dan Garrett.
Yeah, then they changed the way they spelled Garrett,
there you go, yeah.
With one T or two T's. I don't know. But anyway, so that's the original Dan Garrett. And there were 5 volumes of Blue Beetle comic books.
Wow.
That's just up until 1963-ish or so.
Oh, wow, okay.
1968 was the final issue of Volume 5. And like we said, those are Charlton and Fox originally. So then DC, Michael, they bought the rights to all those Charlton characters, right? In 83? Somewhere around there?
Something like that, yep.
And so then in 1986, we get the series we're talking about today, and that's Volume 6 of Blue Beetle. And currently they're on Volume 9.
Okay.
And there's another new Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes.
Yes.
Is the Blue Beetle, not these days. But the Blue Beetle we're talking about today, what'd you say his name is? Ted Kord?
Ted Kord, yep.
And that's Kord.
Yep.
Kord. And there were 24 issues of this here series. So again, very popular.
Yes, very, very. Been around for, 80 years? Very popular.
Well, not this guy, though.
Can't keep a good beetle down.
But because you made us read that terrible Booster Gold about a month ago.
So good, yep.
And aren't Booster Gold and Blue Beetle like buddies?
Yeah, they become buddies soon after this when they both join the Justice League. They become...
When they were both miserable
pals.
failures on their own. They're like, yeah, let's put them in Justice League.
Yeah, why not?
So I remember Booster Gold was the first new hero after Crisis on Infinite Earths, right?
Right.
So with Blue Beetle, he'd have to be like, what, the second or third?
I believe he's the second, yep.
Yeah. Wow. And anything else you'd like to say about the Blue Beetle?
Only that he's got one of the coolest costumes I've ever seen.
No, he does not.
And
one of the worst costumes I've ever seen.
And his what is it called? His bug is one of the coolest vehicles. I mean, Batman has a car, so Wonder Woman has a jet, but Blue Beetle has just a floating little. It's
bug.
like a little camper. It's so cool.
It's a giant floating bug, a 6-leg bug.
If I had my choice of vehicles, I would have Blue Beetle's bug. So
really?
Cool.
You'd want to be in a flying bug?
Yeah, why not?
It's terrible. All right, now this Blue Beetle, though, we'll get into his background because the exposition in this book is staggering. But this Blue Beetle does not have the sacred scarab that gives him magical powers or superpowers. Not magical, but superpowers. So yeah, he doesn't have that. The second Dan Garrett did have that with the 1T. He did have that, but all right. So the creators here are Len Wein is the writer.
Right.
We've talked about him numerous times on the show. Remind kids who Len Wein is, for those who don't remember.
Well, he's a mainstay of both DC and Marvel. He wrote, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Justice League, Batman, every character you can imagine.
And who did he help create?
Well, Wolverine. Look at that. Little theme going here.
Great Wolverine. Now, Len Wein, he wrote all 24 issues of this here Blue Beetle series, which, I don't know. We'll talk about
he's
that
a
later.
legend. He's a legend. I got you. I know what you're saying.
And then the artist here, is it Paris Cullins?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Not quite a legend, but...
Yeah, I have no experience with Paris Cullins. What can you tell us about Paris Cullins?
Not much. Right. Honestly, I don't know what he did besides this and maybe one or two other comics.
I just read up on it briefly, but he did about, I think he did about 15 issues of this here Blue Beetle.
Okay.
And then he went over and he did Blue Devil. He did like 6 or 7 of those.
Yeah.
So he can only draw books if blue is in the title.
Yep.
That's his requirement.
And there's one more creator we got to mention. I don't know if you mentioned this or if I missed it, but you do know who designed this costume, right?
Orkin?
None other than Steve Ditko, co-creator of Spider-Man, who's got the coolest costume in history, and that's why this one's so cool. So good. Oh, it's so good. The black thick outline of the shape of the beetle, the 2 different shades of blue, the goggles. I love it.
Well, yeah, why don't you describe the costume? Let's look at the cover here, Michael, for Blue Beetle issue 1. And this is 1986. June of 86.
1986, yes.
At least
so we got a solid red cover. We've got the big giant...
Mine's orange.
Really? Well, maybe it's just the settings on your computer, but mine's red.
All right.
Anyway, we got... you know what? I've got nighttime vision on. Maybe that's why. Maybe I have no idea. Who knows? Anyway,
I have orange vision on.
Yeah, there you go. Orange. So Blue Beetle is jumping out of his bug and coming right at you, at the reader, pointing his gun. It's not really a gun. It's a... did they say what it is in the book?
No, I don't think so.
It's kind of like a big ray gun. I don't know. It's almost like a big scope.
But when anyway, you say he's jumping out at us, like, we're on the ground looking up. And, like, the bug is up in the sky, so we see the underbelly of the bug.
Yeah.
And Blue Beetle is falling from the bug directly at the camera, at the viewer.
Right, and he's holding on to, like, what is this called? Not a rope, but kind of like a rope with, like, a handle on it.
Yeah, his gimmick is, like, there's a rope that comes out of the bug with a handle on it.
Right.
And he grabs it, like a straight bar right across. Right. And he grabs it. And,
So talking about his costume from the top down, he's got a mask, like a standard superhero mask, except it has yellow... So he's got a dark blue mask with yellow goggles and little black horns, like, above the goggles that are just kind of part of the mask.
Well, when you say goggles, I think goggles would imply there's a frame to them, like glasses. Where these are just like, I think they refer to them as globes.
Oh, really?
They're just yellow bulbs over his eyes, like bug eyes.
Okay.
you know?
Okay, and then his face is showing, and then most of his costume is pretty standard. Like, he's got dark blue boots, dark blue gloves, dark blue kind of underwear, but with a black thick outline separating the dark blue from the rest of his costume, which is light blue. He has like a little pouch for his little ray gun thing. He has a yellow sort of belt buckle that looks like sort of like a pellet or like a pill or something, a big one. But the cool thing about him is on his shoulders and upper chest, he has like the outline of a beetle design. So it's almost like imagine if Spider-Man, but imagine if Spider-Man's logo was like the total like upper half of his upper chest. Not half, but you know what I mean. So that's pretty much it. And that's his costume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blue and yellow.
So he's jumping down at us, and then on the top right there, we have fabulous first issue.
That's right. And at the bottom, it says, I gotta read this.
All lies.
Watch out, world. The Beetle is back, and Adventuredom will never be the same. And I think they're right.
Poor Adventuredom. Never had a chance.
Adventuredom, I love it.
Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Man. All right.
All right, so we cracked this sucker open. You ready to talk about the story here?
Oh, what a story it is. Yes.
Yeah. Len Wein, legendary writer. Here we go. So we start off with a building that is on fire. This is in Chicago. This is not a fictional city, Mike Dell. This is Chicago.
Yeah, again, this confuses me. We've talked about this many times about DC, but I don't know. Because
I
when I
agree.
look at my map, Michael, I can see Chicago.
Yep.
I can't see Metropolis or Ivy City or
yeah, that's why it's so cool. But you also can't see Krypton, can you? So there you go. Right. Okay, so anyway, so these firefighters are fighting a fire, and they're talking about how rough it is and all that. And they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do? You know, it was deliberate, blah blah blah." But then all of a sudden, something appears in the sky. What is it? Well, we got this great dialogue to tell us. The guy says, "I thought he'd retired." And then we see a big shot of the bug flying up in the sky above the burning building, right? Yeah. Then we cut to the next shot, the splash page, and we see kind of a similar image to the cover. Blue Beetle descending away from his bug towards the reader. And we see a bunch of little Beetle logos around the splash page, like a little design thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then we get the title here, Out from the Ashes.
Return to a special kind of greatness.
Yeah. Just like this show. Anyway.
It's a very special kind of greatness. Yep. Not the kind of greatness you would associate with great. But it's a special kind of greatness. All right.
So then Blue Beetle lands... Remember, he's just a normal guy, right? So he just lands...
Well, that's what I thought, but I don't know. There's some things in this book that makes it seem like he's not a normal guy.
I don't know. So he swings down and lands on top of this burning building. And we see this giant guy in the foreground. And Blue Beetle's like, look at that. A firefighter staggering around lost in all the smoke. So Blue Beetle reaches out to help the firefighter, but the supposed firefighter clocks him in the face, right in the jaw, and knocks him over. He's like, "Idiot, keep away from me." Well, it turns out this is not a firefighter. This is what appears to be a supervillain dressed in garish clothing, and his name is Fire Fist.
Fire Fist, the incendiary man.
Yes. So I will quickly describe his costume. He has like kind of white, like a white baggy bodysuit, but then he's got almost like yellow, kind of like armored boots.
Like shoulder pads.
Yeah,
like
armored boots, gloves, so. Yeah, and then giant shoulder pads, and then he has a little tube going from his gloves to underneath the shoulder pads. Then he has like kind of like a helmet with a little, like a breathing thing where his mouth is. And then he has a little logo right on his helmet and on his chest, just so you know who he is. Fire Fist,
Yeah, it's a fist with flames coming off it.
Right.
And the fire comes out of his fingertips. He like shoots fire out of his fingertips.
Right.
And once again, his name is Fire Fist.
Right. On the nose. So then he's like, "I don't know who you are, Bugman, but I'm afraid I can't let you leave. I can't leave you alive to identify me." So he shoots him, and Blue Beetle leaps out of the way, and then now they're fighting, right? So this guy's shooting fire at him. Blue Beetle's like, he's trying to like wrestle him, but he's not really getting anywhere with him. And the guy's like knocking him out of the way, and then all of a sudden he's like shooting more fire out of his fingers, and then the next thing you know, he kind of just disappears.
Yeah, because at the first panel of this page, he says, "I have to kill you. I can't let you go, because you could identify me." Then in the next to last panel, he says, "I ought to incinerate you for your interference, but my work here is done. And I mustn't allow anything to distract me from my mission." Like, just seconds ago, you wanted to kill him. And Blue Beetle's at his mercy. He's like, "Oh my God, the heat is so intense," and he's covering his face. And Fire Fist could just kill him, but he's like, you know what, I changed my mind. So then he just leaves.
Right.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So he's gone. So then Blue Beetle is he's left to his own devices. So he's like, well, I've lost Fire Fist, but maybe I can still save one of his victims.
Hey,
so
Michael, the next page, though, the ad. Do you see the ad? Challenge of the GoBots.
Yeah, pretty cool. It made me want to watch it. Yeah. They're awesome.
Check local TV listings. That's something I've noticed about the DC. They put 2 pages of ads back to back, Like Marvel was always just 1 page of ads.
Oh, I never noticed that. Interesting.
Yeah. So then they got their own little guy who's kind of a ripoff of Irving Forbish, the magazine or Mazine Man.
You mean Amazing Man? Amazing Man. But I guess you could say I think he's kind of more like a ripoff of Red Tornado, but whatever. But this is an actual comic, though. It's not just a gag character; it's a comic.
That's an actual comic?
Oh yes, Amazing Man. There's a miniseries in the mid '80s. Yep.
Oh hell, let's not read that, okay?
Okay, well, it's already on my list. Surprise. Okay, so anyway, Blue Beetle he presses again. Such a cool little thing he's got. He presses a little button on his glove, and then the handle for his rope thing descends down to him. He grabs onto it. He gets pulled up into the bug, and then he kind of floats over the building and kicks in the roof, which you probably shouldn't do, but whatever.
Yeah, see, this is the thing I was thinking. Are you sure he's an ordinary fella? Because he gets put up way high, then launched downwards by this rope to kick through the roof of a building. Clearly, it's on fire and everything. But still, I don't know if that's something an ordinary fella can do.
I think he's just really in good shape,
All right.
So anyway, he sees a guy, it's a firefighter who's trapped underneath some debris. So then he holds on to the firefighter, and he's like, hang on! So he can sense that the building is about to collapse. So we get this really cool sequence, right? Where we can see, it's like a faraway shot where the bug is holding on to Blue Beetle and the guy, and we see the entire building collapse. But look at this, Mike Dell. Blue Beetle and the firefighter are okay. And Blue Beetle explains why. He says, it worked. The building fell away all around us, but because of the large hole directly overhead, we were untouched. And they say the superhero biz is easy, right? Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, if you like Blue Beetle explaining things to you, you're going to love this book.
Yep.
Holy hell. 90% of it, his dialogue is just explaining things.
This is true. But Len Wein is a legend, so we're not going to criticize him. Anyway, okay. So he brings the guy down, the firefighter, so he's getting loaded into the ambulance. And then we get one of the firefighters running over. He's like, I want some answers, right? Because they know it's arson and want to figure out what's going on. And Blue Beetle's like, well, all I can tell you is that the lunatic who apparently started the blaze called himself Fire Fist, the Incendiary Man. And he's like, that's it? Okay, I call myself Blue Beetle, but so who am I to throw stones, right? So then basically, it's kind of like Spider-Man. He doesn't really want to deal with what's going on, so he just takes off, right? Gets back into his bug and flies away.
Yeah.
Right? And then we see him flying over Chicago. And again, we get a really cool sequence where he's flying, but then all of a sudden he splashes into the water, and he goes into an underwater entrance into his elaborate lab/fortress complex. I guess he doesn't have a cool name for it yet, right?
And keep in mind, Blue Beetle is narrating this in his thought bubbles.
Right,
Every step of the way, he's narrating what he's doing.
Right.
Why not just put this in narration boxes instead of
thought bubbles?
I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say, a quick conversion to submarine mode, and the bug becomes a super sophisticated fish, carrying me effortlessly to the secret hatch lock I've built into the side of the lake bed. Yeah, this is great stuff. Anyway, so he parks his bug.
Why is he doing that?
And he gets out, and then he unmasks, right? So now we see him in his Ted Cord secret identity, and he tells us, look, he says, bye-bye, Blue Beetle, free-swinging superhero, and hello, Ted Cord, scientist, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of Cord Incorporated, right?
Because that's what a lot of people do when they come
That's what I do
work.
when I'm coming from work, yeah.
Goodbye, Michael, university employee. Hello, Michael, podcaster.
That's right. Every day.
Then he starts talking to his bug, the ship. He's talking to an inanimate object, and he's filling in the inanimate object about his back history. Like, do you think he does this every time he comes home from work?
I'm sure he does, yep.
Like, sometimes when I get out of the car, when I get home from the grocery store, I'll say, hey, car, what's here? This is...
Talk about the history of LCS hockey.
But he is so terrible. We've been through a lot together through the years, haven't we, bug old buddy? Who'd ever thought? My Uncle Jarvis apparently died in that lab explosion. That would one day lead to this. And then we get a flashback of him talking to his car about his history.
Yeah, a very convoluted history where we find out that he randomly found a box full of with notes, maps, and a reel of film. And then he watched the film, and in the film, it shows that his old
porno.
Yeah, his old college professor, Dr. Dan Garrett, apparently had to design some robots, right?
Yeah, so Dan Garrett went from a police officer to a college professor at some point?
I guess, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like they completely changed Dan Garrett.
Yeah.
Like Dan Garrett to Dan Garrett, right?
Yeah.
So these robots are incredible, Ted, and you say you helped build them? Help make them invincible, Doc, without knowing I was doing so. That's why I've got to go to Pago Island and why I want you to come with me. So they go to Pago Island, and there's all these robots there. And, and so Jarvis, they thought he had died, but actually he had gone to this island to finish building these robots, right?
Yeah, and just to recap, Jarvis is Ted Kord's uncle.
Right.
Yeah. But he's an evil doctor who's making an army of robots
to
take over the world.
Right, and they're kind of like, they just look like, they kind of look like modern, well, when I say modern, I mean 80s, but, they don't look like vintage robots, they kind of look like 80s robots.
Now, are these robots covered orange for you? Because they look orange to me.
They definitely look orange for me, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then they start fighting the robots, but all of a sudden, look, Ted is in danger, but not Dan, right? He just says his magic word, which I believe is Kaiji Da, or something. Kaiji Da. And he transforms into the legendary hero called the Blue Beetle, right?
I'm guessing, is that some Egyptian phrase, Kaiji Da?
Maybe, yeah. And then I'm not sure what his powers are, but it looks like he's shooting something out of his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And he's punching something, right? Yeah. So, but then look at this. Uh-oh. He gets injured in the battle, and he's dying. And he says to Ted Kord,
there's an explosion.
Yeah.
The robots exploded.
Right. He's like, I'm finished, Ted. Promise you'll carry on for me. I will, Doc. I swear it. Now, this is another interesting thing. You remember how we talked about that trope of a superhero having a name and then later getting superpowers that match that name? Yeah. Well, this is a different trope. Ted Kord carries on the legacy of Blue Beetle, but he doesn't inherit any of his powers. He has to completely build his own identity from scratch. And he carries the name, but he's nothing like the original Blue Beetle.
Yeah, look, Michael, there's a little design there for that gun we were talking about.
Yeah.
The light emission gun.
Right.
So a flashlight.
Kind of like a...
All right.
Yeah, there you go. Flashlight, yep.
Put a crowbar on it, and you can be a Camelot 3000.
Yeah.
That's a callback to an earlier episode. All right.
Yeah, so see right here he says, but it hasn't been easy trying to live up to the legends of a Blue Beetle without Dan's sacred scarab and the superpowers it bestowed. So basically, Dan Garrett says to him, promise me you'll carry on, but I'm not going to give you the scarab or anything, and you don't have my powers. So
it's like if Superman's dying, and he says, "Hey, Michael,
carry
on,
exactly.
Carry on for me, as Superman.
You figure it out,
It's like, exactly. I can't fly,
right?
I don't know. It's all right. You'll get good at stopping bullets with your chest. Don't worry about it.
There you go.
But what do you think is going on here with Ted Kord's face in this panel? His eyes, they're like 85% of his skull is his eye.
Yeah, I know. Paris Cullins draws big eyes. That's a fact.
Yes, he does.
That's one thing I know about him.
All right.
So then we are introduced to Kord Industries. It's like this cool looking building.
But look though, Mike, before he leaves though, he's still moping, but he's got a little tribute to his friend. Prominent archaeologist perishes on Pago Island. And it's like a newspaper clipping from the Chicago Sun-Times. He has a frame, then he has two candles in front of it that he keeps burning, that he, I guess, lights.
Right.
And, as a tribute to his friend,
yep.
Dan Garrett. The lesser of the two Dan Garretts.
Yeah.
He misses him. All right.
So then he goes to, oh, look at that. A swift elevator ride carries Ted Kord up from the subterranean sanctuary of the Blue Beetle to the towering lakeshore edifice that is Kord Omniversal Research and Development.
So it's kind of like Tony Stark, right? Stark Industries. He's just
kind of, yeah.
Kord.
Exactly. And so then he comes into the office and he's like, how's your sick uncle? He says this to his secretary, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to come back later, but she's like, yeah, maybe not. But then again, legendary Len Wein likes to lay the groundwork for subplots that he's going to pick up later. So we don't know. We don't know yet.
I'll take a wager on it.
All right. So then, so basically, they're like, so then he's like, I don't know what I'd do without you, kid. And that thought bubble says, and I pray you never have to find out. But again, Mike Dell, I think that's more foreshadowing of something that's going to come, you know?
Well, I'll never know.
Yeah. So then Ted Kord steps into the next room. And of course, it's this giant room with all these like scientists in it and like technology.
Well, just two scientists.
Two scientists, but all this technological stuff like on the ceiling and like tubes and pipes and stuff. And I don't know what it is. Yeah. So they're performing some experiments and it's like a chemistry experiment, I guess. They've got a drop of this reagent and the formula, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden there's an explosion, right? And it's like they pull off their masks and they're trying to figure out what happened. And Ted Kord is like, how about working on one of the projects I hired you for? And it's kind of like, wah, wah, wah. He's all pissed.
Well, the explosion might go, they're trying to make instant filet mignon.
Yeah.
That's the joke. Instant filet mignon. And he's like, oh, that's crazy, but why don't you work? Yeah, he's like screaming, why don't you work on the project?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, sorry, Ted. So they're going for comedy there.
Right, exactly. He's like, just remember, they also laughed at the guy who created Nutty Putty. I forgot about Nutty Putty.
Yeah.
Did you have some?
We call it Silly Putty here in Western PA.
No, it's fun. No, now that you mentioned, no, you're right. I don't know what I had, Silly Putty or Nutty Putty, but whatever. Back to the story. So
I'd rather talk about Silly Putty.
Yeah. So then there's a little bit of romance here, right? Where she's like, we both know there's another reason you showed up here, don't we?
Yeah, the two scientists, there's a fella and then there's a lady. And he starts kissing the lady. They're dancing.
Right.
Like, but then it gets real weird here. He's like, I'm afraid you know me too well, my dear Miss Case. He says, hey, good looking. You can call me Melody. Heck, you can call me anytime. What the fuck is going on, Michael? Yeah,
it's like, do they know each other or not? Yeah, like, it's weird.
They clearly know each other, and they're like clearly dating and whatnot, because someone else makes a reference to it later. Yet, what is going on when she says those? Those lines of dialogue make no sense. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah. You know what it is, Michael? It's a way for Len Wein to just get her name in there. You can call me Melody. Yeah. That's all it is. But why doesn't he just call her Melody? I don't understand, Len Wein. What is wrong with you? All right.
Yeah, so then Ted Kord is like, well, I've got an appointment over at Star. Now, you know what Star Labs is, right?
Yeah, before that, though, Michael, he gives him a piece of charred wood to analyze from the building.
Oh, right, yes.
Because he's trying to track the chemicals that burn the wood back to Fire Fist.
Right.
He figures that's how he could track them down. So he gives them that assignment to do. And then he goes to Star Labs and tell the kids what Star... Well, first of all, we get another scene, though, before that.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about that later, yeah. So now we cut over to a scene of somebody is at Pogo Island, and he's going to investigate what's going on, right? He's like, the secret is here. It has to be. There is something on this cursed island that was worth Dan Garrett's life, and I intend to stay here until I find out. So this guy tells the reader who he is. His name is Conrad Carapax, right? And I happen to know that there's a supervillain coming up in a future issue named Carapax. So clearly, this shot of this robot suit, see, he's laying the groundwork, like I said. And he's going to come back as a villain named Carapax. So that's what that's all about. Yep. Yeah. So then we cut back over to Star Labs, which I think has been around since the early 70s. It's kind of like DC's go-to thing for like anything technology. It's always Star Labs. So
I know that for the Flash. Right?
Yeah, the Flash. See, there you go. And so we see inside Star Labs. So who's this here? This is a guy named Murray. Oh yeah. So Ted Cord comes in and talks to this guy Murray Takamoto, right? Am I wrong about that? Is that his name?
No, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So we see it. Look at this nice close up by Paris Cullins at this guy's sweaty face.
Again, the eyes are just a trainer at the
really big, yeah. So he's like, "Come on down to the molecular cell lab with me. Take a look. But I promise you, what I have to show you isn't very pretty." So he brings him down, and they look at the. So he's like, "You've heard of Promethium, that constantly renewing energy source discovered by Dayton Industries? Well, we just happen to have a fair-sized chunk of it right here." And so they look at it, and I can't remember what comes out of this. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. They've got some promethium, and it's eating the titanium. So they're trying to figure out why that's happening. They don't really know, right?
Yeah, they're trying to put something over it, like so they can use it in different. What's the word I'm looking for, Michael?
Alloys.
Yeah, they're trying to do some sort of work with it, but it keeps eating through the titanium and every metal they try with it. So they say, "Hey, Ted Cord, you're so smart. Maybe you can figure it out." And he says, "All right, but you got to hire me. You got to pay me money." And he's like, "All right, we'll pay you." But Michael, there's a janitor.
I know.
He looks like Willie from The Simpsons. You know, that janitor for this.
I just love how there's always a janitor who's in the background, like listening to these like top secret, not top secret, but like this is not something you'd want to talk about in front of the janitor, I don't think, right?
Yeah. And he says, the janitor, he's thinking, well, what's the one thing he says? He says, "I'll send the promethium over to your lab first thing in the morning." That's what Murray says to Ted. And then the janitor in his thoughts, he's saying, "Sorry, gentlemen, but I don't think I can allow that." And we get a close-up of his eyes, and he's smiling all like sinister like.
Right.
But then we get another thought bubble. "I'm afraid it would spoil all my carefully laid plans." We don't need that, Len Wein. You don't need that. Just cut that.
Just like Len Wein's carefully laid plans, right?
Yes, we can. Let the carefully laid plans be implied. Mm-hmm. You don't need to beat us over the head with it. But yeah.
Well, I guess technically, if even the close-up of the guy's face is hitting you over the head, right? You could just have him, maybe just smirking in the background or something.
Yeah, you don't even. Yeah, clearly you don't even need it. But yeah, he looks like groundskeeper Willie a little bit. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But so there we go. So now look at Len Wein. He's dropping seeds everywhere, Michael.
Yep.
Planting those seeds.
That's why he did 24 issues, or was it 29?
24.
24 issues. There you go. So then we cut over to the cops, right? Lieutenant Max Fisher.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, Michael. I thought this was the same guy who was at the island. He looks very similar to that guy.
Kinda, yeah. So he's like, "I was cleaning up some old files, and I came across something that didn't sit right with me. Remember that Garrett case, the one where the archaeologist got killed in a cave-in on Pago Island, and we never found the body?" He's like, "I don't think it was an accident. I think it was murder. And if I'm right, someone is going to pay for it." Look at that. Another subplot, Mike Dell.
I know.
This is amazing. How to write comics the Len Wein way.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut over to back at Star Labs. And we see this. This is not a really good picture here, is it? Look at this shot of
really bad pictures
of Ted Cord sitting there, and in the foreground we see like a pot of coffee, but it's not really. It doesn't look like it's in the foreground. It just looks like a giant mug sitting in front of him on the ground, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're talking about how the experiment with the promethium is not going well. And they're talking about the coffee, and he's like, "Tastes like you've accidentally discovered the universal solvent." So then he's joking about having to get a stomach pump and blah blah blah.
Comedy.
Yep, it's good stuff. And then all of a sudden, Ted Cord's being paged, so he has to leave, right? It's like, "Okay, see you later." And he's like, "But actually," in his head, he's like, "Couldn't tell Murray that it wasn't my pager that beeped, but a special signal from the bug." Right? So then he gets pulled up into his bug, changes into his Blue Beetle identity, and then basically flies back to his head. Oh no, he flies back to another house that's on fire, right? Or building.
It's actually a fire department. Engine company number 41. Because he had the bug patrolling the city looking for trouble.
Isn't that cool? Oh, so cool.
That's so cool.
So then we see, look who's back, Mike Dell. Fire Fist.
Fist.
Yep. So then he uses his bug to actually attack Fire Fist by shooting like fire extinguisher foam, which I think is pretty cool. And it's kind of working on him, but then he sort of descends down on his little rope thing and kicks Fire Fist in the face. And he's using his quips, right? It appears we've run out of marshmallows. Oh no, first he says, the cookout's over. It appears we've run out of marshmallows. Then he kicks him in the face. It's great.
Next page, Michael, we get an ad for DC Heroes role-playing game. Don't miss these exciting adventures. Did you ever have the DC role-playing game?
I had it, and I have it.
I had the Marvel one.
I have both. I've never played them. I just look at the pictures. How about you?
Oh, I just play the Marvel one by myself. I was a lonely, lonely man.
Yeah.
Then we get like a guest. Meanwhile, I guess this is a regular column DC did where they have people write.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like Stan's Soapbox, but it's DC's version.
Yeah. In this one, Michael, look who it's written by.
Mark Evanier.
Evanier. All right, I wanted to just hear you say his name because I never knew how to pronounce it.
Oh.
Evanier. All right. Because keep in mind, that name is going to come up a little bit later. All right.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so then Blue Beetle is fighting Fire Fist. He's punching him, he's jumping over him, he's flipping him, right? And he's like, oh no, the roof. So then the roof starts to collapse, right? So then they both fall into like the next level. But then Blue Beetle's using his moves, right? He's swinging around on the fireman's pole, and then he's kicking fire.
This is very confusing, this page.
Yeah, because I didn't know because you don't know which order to go, right? Yeah.
Yeah, usually like the page is divided up into two vertical columns, and on the left we have 4 panels, and on the right we just have one big panel. But the way they want you to read it is usually, I don't know, Michael, usually in these situations you read all the left side panels first and then go to the right. Here you read the top left panel, then the big right panel that goes all the way to the bottom of the page, and then you have to go back and read the second left panel.
It's bad. And usually they put an arrow there to help you, but they don't. So yeah, it's kind of awkward. So then, they're fighting back and forth, and then Fire Fist shoots the ceiling, and then all of the ceiling collapses on top of Blue Beetle. And he's like, you should have stayed away, insect. You might have stayed alive, but now the blazing firehouse will become your funeral pyre. And then he's like, burn, Beetle, as soon this whole city shall burn. Burn, burn, burn. He's shouting. Ha 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 ha. And then it says, next issue, the climatic battle between the Incinerator Man and the Blue Beetle. And then in brackets, assuming, of course, BB lives that long. Be here for this city's not for burning. We promise you won't regret it. There you go.
You regret it. Yeah, so there is Blue Beetle, issue 1, 1986. Good Lord, was that terrible. Holy hell, was that bad.
Wasn't great. Was not great.
So listen, like you said, Len Wein, he's putting in some subplots and that's nice and all. But wow, the exposition and the dialogue, and this is not how you want to handle things when you're plotting a book. They're just, I don't know, not so good. This was brutal.
It's not great. Not great. But I got good news. Don Heck takes over art eventually, so that's good.
Don Heck eventually, I guess. But like I said, I think Paris Cullins does like at least the first like 12 or so, and then he does some other ones later. But the art here, Paris Cullins wasn't a fan of that either.
No, I thought it would be a lot better. Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
It's a weird style. It's kind of like cartoony mixed with comic book, but it's also who's the inker here? Because it was heavily inked as well. Like it made everything.
Bruce Patterson
made everything seem stiff and flat, and the proportions are off on the faces and the bodies a lot of the times, and it's weird, man. I don't know. I didn't like any of it. Did not enjoy it.
Yeah, the art's rough. I agree.
And the character, I don't like the character either. Ted Cord, I don't like him.
Well, I don't necessarily like the character in here, but I love his costume, and I love his bug.
I just don't like his attitude. I think he's got an attitude problem.
Really?
I don't know. I just don't like him. There's nothing here that made me say, "Oh, this guy's cool," or "Wow, I want to read more about this fella." Nope, not even a second of it.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad. Because why is he jumping around like a monkey and he's such a good fighter and everything? Like, but he's a nerd. He's a scientist, right?
Yeah.
He's fighting everybody, but he
Well,
doesn't have superpowers.
I'm sure he's got training or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. This give me the original Dan Garrett, police officer.
Oh, yeah?
Bulletproof outfit. Go out and punch people. That's what I want. I'll read the hell out of that.
Okay. But, keep that in mind.
I don't like this at all. Anything else you'd like to mention about this?
Only that I don't think I've ever read it before, but it was definitely worse than I thought it would be.
It is pretty bad.
Rough.
Like, I know you think a giant flying bug is cool.
Yeah, I do.
But I'm probably in the other camp that thinks that is really lame.
Oh, I think it's
great. Yeah. Not
so
a fan
good.
of that one at all. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. I get he's kind of like a knockoff Iron Man with the Tony Stark stuff, or also I guess just knockoff Batman, really.
Little Batman, little Iron Man, yeah. Little Spider-Man.
Yeah, because he tries to crack wise like Spider-Man, but none of the jokes hit at all.
Well, he is co-created by Steve Ditko, or created by Steve Ditko, so he's probably just in that vein, right?
How come Ditko didn't do it? He just created it, but then he says, this is going to be terrible.
No, I think he drew some of the early issues. Like, I'm talking about the 60s. He drew some of the 60s ones.
Yeah. But you said he did this costume, right?
Well, no, that's what I mean. Ted Cord was invented in the 60s.
Because when I was looking at the other Blue Beetles, it looked like they had a different outfit, but maybe I didn't see all of them.
No, it's confusing because there's the Dan Garrett from like the 30s, then there's the Dan Garrett from the 40s, and then when they brought him back in the 60s, then they replaced him with Ted Cord in the 60s. So then Ted Cord was Blue Beetle for however long in the 60s. Then it got canceled. Then DC bought it and started this is just a reboot of the Ted Cord Blue Beetle.
Yeah, so he was with Charlton back then, and Ditko was doing Charlton stuff.
Right,
he was doing like was he doing the Peacemaker? No, or what was
the
one he did for Charlton?
Captain Atom.
There's another one too, because I had an old comic book of it. On the cover, he's fighting a guy named Destructor, and he has like this energy hand, kind of like
I can't remember.
Shoot. All right, I'll look. All right. Anyway, hey Mike L, we got to give this a book a rating.
All right. Well, I mean, usually I'm more forgiving, but I think this artwork is going to bring it down. I got to give it a 4 out of 10.
Wow, that's nice to hear from you, because usually you'd still give something like this a 6, just because it's DC. And yeah, this is a 2 for me. The writing here is awful. The art is not my style. I didn't like any of this, but I like alliteration, so it gets 1 point for Blue Beetle.
There you go.
But otherwise, that's it. All right, there's Blue Beetle. Nothing else? If people like Blue Beetle, well, I would recommend they go listen to the old radio shows. But is there anything that you really enjoyed over the years that you've read with Blue Beetle? Any notable storylines or anything?
Absolutely. Justice League International by Keith Giffen, Mark DeMatteis, and Kevin Maguire, and later Adam Hughes. That's, the most popular, probably, depiction of Blue Beetle. That's where he teams up with Booster Gold, as well as Fire and Ice, and all the others. And, it was a good, solid 5-year run, and it's still legendary today, and it's still revived every once in a while. That's pretty much where I know Blue Beetle from, so that's where I would go to.
All right. And I would avoid that like the plague. All right.
Trust me, you'd love it. Anyway.
Next week,
woo!
I mentioned earlier, Michael, remember Mark Vanier.
Oh, I like it. Are we doing New Gods?
No, we're not doing New Gods. We're going to do Gru the Wanderer.
Oh, nice.
Issue 22.
Wow.
Now, how do you say this about Sergio Aragones?
I think so. I don't. I wish I knew, but I don't.
Yeah, I'll research that before next week. But Gru the Wanderer from 1986. We're going to do issue 22.
That's great.
And when I was a kid, for those who don't know, Gru the Wanderer, it's a parody. It's a comedy about it's Conan the Barbarian. Well, this is Gru the Wanderer, and it's that kind of thing. But it's comedy. A lot of jokes.
Yes.
And now I haven't read a Gru the Wanderer since I was a kid, but when I was 10, 11, and 12, I thought he was hilarious.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, when was the last time you read a Gru the Wanderer?
I don't know, within the last 5 or 10 years, probably.
Oh, all right. Does it hold up?
I think so. Yep.
Sweet. We'll do that. Maybe we'll have. I'll see if our buddy Tuffy wants to come on.
Oh, that'd be great. Is he a fan?
No.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure he has no idea who Gru the Wanderer is. But yeah, we'll see if he's in for it. So maybe next week, Tuffy and Gru the Wanderer.
Fun stuff. All right. So there you go. You can catch every episode of Flea Market Fantasy on Stitcher, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts under Comic Book Syndicate. You can also follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, or the website, Comic Book Syndicate. Every week we pick a different Bronze Age comic. 1 week I pick, 1 week Mike Dell picks. So be sure to join us every week. And until next Tuesday, disperse!